Hello and a big welcome back to the Wee Larder channel. Hope you're all doing fine. Today we're going to be making a delicious Scottish beef stew, and we're going to be making it with a lovely Orkney ale. I think it's called Dark Island. It's not sponsored by the ale company or anything, but it just works really nice in this recipe. So I'll talk a little bit more about it in the recipe itself, but this is the perfect recipe at this time of year when it's starting to get really cold. And we've had a lot of rain lately as well, so this really warmed us up for our dinner. It was really nice and the kids loved it as well. Plus there was lots of leftovers. I like to have lots of leftovers this time of year so we can have something for lunch the next day. If you want to have the recipe, if you're not making it for so many people, please feel free to do so. So let's get started on our delicious Scottish beef stew. So for this delicious recipe, we're going to need these ingredients here. So this is a real simple recipe. You can add in more vegetables if you want to, maybe some greens, or maybe just serve some greens up on the side. So we're just going to season our beef up really well, and we're just going to mix that salt and pepper through, and before we brown our beef, we're just going to add our flour in there too. I'm also adding in a wee bit of olive oil. Now usually I would add a bit of butter in to brown my beef off, but I was actually short on butter the day I was making this, so I just added a bit of olive oil in. But olive oil is so expensive just now, so I've just been using what I have to hand really. So I usually have butter to hand, so I usually just put a little bit of butter in there. So before we brown off, we're going to add in our flour. So we're just going to stir that through really well, and we're just then going to brown the beef. So just make sure the flour is over everything, and we're just going to keep stirring. So we should have something that looks like this after it has been browned, and we're then going to add in our carrots. We're just going to stir those through. And we're going to add our onions in as well. You can also add in other vegetables if you want to. A bit of neep would be nice. Even some tatties in here would be good as well. Or some greens maybe. I would maybe add the greens in towards the end of the cooking time in the oven though, if you want to do that, just so that they don't totally disintegrate into nothing. So just give that a wee stir through, and we're then going to add in a wee bit of neep here as well. So we're going to be adding in our dark ale. So I've actually used the whole bottle of this ale, the Dark Island ale from the Orkney brewery. So you can use whatever you can get your hands on, but this is my favourite for making a beef stew. So when I'm making a beef and ale stew, I like to use this one. So I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that. This is just the one that I like to use for this recipe. So I'm just going to put in the whole bottle. And it didn't really taste really strong or anything once it was finished cooking, so don't worry about putting it all in. It just adds a nice rich flavour. So I've added all of it in there. I'm just going to give that a wee mix through again. Now I'm adding in a stock cube here. If you have your own stock made, you could add a little bit of your own stock, but I'm just actually adding it in for a little bit extra flavour. And we're then just going to pop that in the oven. And halfway through the cooking time, we're going to give it a wee stir through. So I don't actually have a lid on this stew. You can use a lid if you want to, but I have a lot of liquid here to cook off, so I'm just leaving the lid off in the oven. So we're just going to give it a wee mix through halfway through. And if you want to add in greens at this point, you could put in like some greens here. And then I'm just going to pop it back into the oven. Now another favourite of mine at this stage is to add in a wee bit of red currant jelly. It just adds a little sweetness and it's just really delicious. And I have some red currant jelly usually in my cupboard from the summer months, so it's one of my favourite little extras to add in here, or even like a little bit of chutney as well. Sometimes if I've had a chutney go bad, and it does happen, I will keep that chutney for beef stew and I'll just add it in at this stage, just a couple of tablespoons, and even into like a venison stew as well. I'll just add it in at this point. So this is our fully finished stew here. It's very tender, the vegetables are really soft, the beef is really soft, and we're just going to serve this up into our bowls. But before we do, I'll just give you a wee look at everything here so you can see everything is cooked down really well. And it tends to taste better the next day too, I always find. So you can see the vegetables are cooked through, so make sure your vegetables are really soft when you're finished, and your beef is really soft and tender as well. A really nice cut of beef to use for this recipe is beef shin. Now I haven't actually used beef shin here in this video, but it is really nice to use. It's quite a fatty cut and it does take a little bit of time, so you might need a bit of extra time cooking it. It takes a bit of time to get it nice and soft, so just keep your eye on that if you're using that instead. But this is just plain stewing beef from the supermarket. So we're going to serve that up with a good helping of boiled tatties there, or you could do roast tatties, whatever you fancy. It's nice to serve it up with some greens as well if you don't have greens in this stew itself. But I didn't actually put any on for this particular evening, but I do like to have like some kale on the side, or some stir-fried cabbage or something as well, just something to add a wee bit extra nutrition. So I just love this recipe on a cold stormy night, and we've had plenty of those lately. We seem to be in storm season at the moment, lots of windy nights, lots of rain. It's getting really dark as well, and this is just a perfect recipe to warm up with next to the fire. So I hope you enjoy it. I know my family really enjoy this beef stew, and it's definitely one of our favorite recipes, and as you can see, everything is just really melt in the mouth. It's so delicious. So I hope you enjoyed this recipe. If you did make a few variations on your beef stew, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you popped into yours vegetable wise, or if you had any interest in sides with it as well, just let me know. So I hope your stew came out really, really nice, and I hope you enjoyed it with some seasonal vegetables and tatties and stuff. You could also add dumplings into this recipe. I know my kids absolutely love dumplings. There's literally a fight over suet dumplings in my house when they are on the go. What I would recommend doing is maybe not cooking them in the stew itself, but actually making them in a pot of vegetable stock or chicken stock or something on the side, just because, well, for me personally, if I'm cooking so many dumplings up, there's just not enough room in the stew pan for the dumplings. So it's always a good thing to cook them on the side if you don't have space in your pan if you're cooking for a lot of people. I do have a recipe on my website, I think, for dumplings to have with stew. I'll have a look and see if there is one up there, and I will put it down in the description box below. So if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a big thumbs up, and if you're not a subscriber, if you click the subscribe button and the bell next to it, I will see you guys again soon. I have lots of Christmassy recipes coming up, so feel free to pop back for those. If you're over on Instagram, pop over and say hi. I'm always posting every single day from my kitchen, just whatever I'm cooking here or whatever I'm doing outside goes up in my stories and stuff. So if you want to follow me over there, pop over and say hello. And that's about it for me. So take care everyone, lots of love. Bye bye.